So quick example today of something that I thought might be interesting to show on camera. At my old property, once I got the grass exactly where I wanted it to be, probably took 3, 4, 5 seasons or so, and I got all of that pressure of the weeds down and all of that stuff. Then there were many areas that I didn't use the pre-emergent anymore. But what we're looking at back here right now behind me is an old farm field, and so this is only my second or third season of having turf into here, and so this is a pretty good example of what can happen when you don't use the pre-emergent. And so the reason on the back little part here that we're looking at that I didn't use pre-emergent was because it's a little patchy still. There's some not so great soil underneath here, and so it's still a little bit patchy in spots. And so this spring I thought, you know, we're gonna get spring rains. I'm not gonna put the pre-emergent down. I'm going to aerate it. I'm gonna overseed it, and hopefully by the end of summer it'll be all filled in. Well, we didn't really get any of those spring rains, and I didn't get a sprinkler out here and move it around constantly like I really should have. And so I left it to its own devices, and it's still basically kind of where it was at the beginning of spring. Nothing that we can't fix in the future, but this is a reason that I did have some weeds start to come into it as far as crabgrass, foxtail. Foxtail is horrible around here, and so the seed bank down in the ground that's in this area is probably pretty crazy, and that's why we need to use the pre-emergent. So one thing that I've been seeing in the last couple weeks is a whole bunch of that stuff starting to come up in just this section alone, and exactly where I stopped out to the side of this onto my normal fairway out on this ryegrass yard out here next to it, there's no issues whatsoever. So the pre-emergent did exactly what it needed to do. So I just wanted to show an example of that, why it's important, and maybe what the results would be if you don't use the pre-emergent, or you do what I did where you might be doing a spring seeding or something and it just didn't turn out exactly how you wanted. So hopefully you'll be able to see this, but you can see this distinct line right here. That's exactly where I stopped the pre-emergent. And so here's what we have. You can see obviously right here on the line on this side, you got all these foxtail crabgrass stuff coming in, and then you look over here on this side, and there's a couple of hidden broadleaf weeds in there every once in a while, but that's pre-emergent isn't going to get rid of those or prevent them. But as far as everything else being clean, you can distinctly see that line, and I wish it showed just maybe a little bit better on camera, but all these weeds over here, all this little lime green stuff that you're seeing, that's all weeds. What can you do about this when we're at this point? Well, that's also another thing that I just wanted to quickly mention, is that as soon as you see that stuff starting to pop up, crabgrass, in those early stages, the best bet is to get it sprayed right away at that point if you can, because the earlier you do this, that's going to help to make sure that the spray that you're using is more effective. As the plant gets more mature, as it gets more leaves on it and more of a root system, it becomes more and more difficult to get rid of. The only good thing about it is that these are annual plants. So next year you get the pre-emergent on here. Most likely you're going to prevent all of this and you're not going to have that issue. But it's unsightly, and also I wouldn't let this stuff grow if possible, just because it's going to put down more and more seeds into the soil. So what I did last night is I just got up my sprayer and I put in some quinclorac. So in the past I've used a product called Drive. That's a really good one. Or yesterday I actually used a product called Quintessential, I believe it is. Same type of thing. Quinclorac is going to be what really does a great job on this type of annual crabgrass, foxtail, those types of things. And so also the thing that you want to add in is MSO with that. It's about 1/2 ounce per gallon. And that's going to be your surfactant to really help coat all of these weeds. It will help do a good job of making sure that you don't get droplets on those weeds, but you actually coat the leaves and get rid of them. So I'm already noticing some die-off here, or starting to change the color. It won't be instant. The plant will kind of start to turn colors. It might even turn a little bit of a purplish red color until it eventually gets all of that. But quinclorac is going to be what you want to do. Make sure you're not spraying at the heat of the day. Pick an evening time where the wind is down, so it's not too windy either and it's not too hot, and get that done as soon as you can. And you're gonna get this cleaned out, and then next year, if you can, get some pre-emergent on the areas and you're not gonna have these issues. But I just thought it was a good example of the real world here to show you what might happen one scenario to the next here. So appreciate you taking a look today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.